Today's election results coming up just a little later in the hour. Now let me go to our other top story, the ongoing Obamacare train wreck, which has now the White House trying to rewrite history. Remember when the president repeatedly told us this?
No matter how we reform health care, we will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
Well, it turns out that wasn't actually the case. Millions have seen their existing insurance plans canceled. Now, despite promising at least 29 times what we just heard, President Obama is resorting to a new deception. Take a listen to this.
If you have or had one of these plans before the Affordable Care Act came into law, and you really liked that plan, what we said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law's passed.
So what happened to you can keep your plan, comma, period, Mr. President? That was your first line. This new lie, I don't think it's going to fool anybody. In other Obamacare headlines, by the way, before we get to our panelists, late today, House Ways and Means Chairman Dave Camp subpoenaed the Obama administration for internal Obamacare enrollment data. And private estimates, state by state, now show surging sign-ups by older people, but not the young and healthy. If that trend continues, it's going to break the entire system. Plus, call them the hidden costs of Obamacare, thanks to the laws, collection, taxes, fees, regulations on insurers. Everybody is going to have higher premiums, or nearly everybody is going to have higher premiums as a result. Okay. Add to all this President Obama's Gallup approval rating, which has now fallen to just 39%. So my question this evening, with Obama's credibility on the line, why would the White House resort to new lies about Obamacare? It's really not necessary. So let's talk. Here now we have health policy expert Hadley Heath from the Independent Women's Forum, which has begun collecting personal stories of canceled insurance plans at the website mycancellation.com. Also with us, Kellyanne Conway, President and CEO of the polling company, and we welcome Ron Fournier from the National Journal, who wrote a scathing article today about the president's new Obamacare lie. Lying about lies, why credibility matters to Obama. Ron Fournier, I want to begin with you. Why are they doing this? It just seems so clumsy and unnecessary, and it's going to damage his credibility even more.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it. It's political malpractice. Any leader, whether you're in politics, business, running a church, you have to have credibility. And when you lose that, you lose your ability to lead, especially with these young millennials, as you were pointing to, these younger Americans who think they're invincible, who don't think they need health insurance. The president has to convince them that this is good for them, good for their families, good for their future, good for their country. And it's going to be hard to do if he is caught shading the truth, spinning, and lying.
You know, I just want, before I get to the others, I just want to, it's something you noted in your excellent column today, that you said,
Thank you.
Obama was reading from written notes, and you watched it. He was looking at the notes. You believe those notes were, you know, deliberate, senior White House people. This is an orchestrated deceit, you call it, this whole business about what we really said and if it hasn't changed. So you figured they're actually trying to craft some political counteroffensive here.
Yeah, the what we said was line today, trying to reinvent history. I know from reporting wasn't something off the cuff. And if you look at the videotape, you can see for yourself, he's clearly reading those remarks. So this wasn't a slip of the tongue. It wasn't a mistake. It is the White House strategy, for whatever reason, to try to convince Americans that what they've seen on videotape 20, 25, 29 times didn't exist. They're trying to, in almost an Orwellian way, reinvent history. And I think the basis of this is they just don't think the American public is very smart. They think they can get away with this. Right. And it's just, it's beneath his brand, beneath the presidency.
All right, Kellyanne Conway, why is he doing this? He's going to get nailed. As Ron Fournier said, people have saw it 29 times or whatever. Why is he doing this, Kellyanne? This is like on top of dumber.
Well, it is, and you know, his approval rating being at 39%, and 10 Democratic senators, Larry, joining with the rest of us who have called for a delay in Obamacare, a timeout, take a deep breath. That really tells the tale here that more people are paying attention. Look, the Democrats lost the House in 2010 largely because of the fear of Obamacare in philosophy. Now you've got Obamacare in practice. You have real names and faces and people and horror stories, and the cancer victim in yesterday's Wall Street Journal writing her insurance had been canceled. And I think that he is trying to find a way, as many politicians do, to parse words and to tell you that his intent was not to lie, that he used information. It's really why the New York Times is under attack for saying that the president misspoke. People have said, well, why didn't you just say he lied? And the guy was interviewed and said, because I don't know what he knew, so I'm not sure he lied, he misspoke. It's not going to work with the American people.
You know,
This is White House. This man ran on credibility and transparency, right, and he's losing both.
See, I've got to be honest with you. Before this evening, I avoided the word lie. I did. I don't like to say presidents lie.
I can see that.
Having worked for a president, having been close to other presidents in the Republican side. But I was so angry, and I'm reading Ron Fournier's column, and there were other commentaries that were similar to that. You know, not just from far-right conservatives, but a whole lot of people picked up on this. I'm just so angry that the L word now comes out. Now, Hadley Heath, let me ask you this. It's going to hurt his credibility, but as Ron Fournier suggested, it may, Hadley, hurt his credibility most among the younger crowd, the younger millenniums who are absolutely, they are relying on the millenniums to finance Obamacare. And you saw the story in the Wall Street Journal today. Let's see, if you're under 34, only 24% have under 54, 37%. Over 55, 39%. Individual state exchanges, which are doing better than the national exchange, are reporting over 55 is the dominant group that's signing up. So it's like Obama's statements or lies are sabotaging the very people he needs to fund the whole plan.
Right, Larry. Well, one of the blessings of youth is that young people tend to be healthier, and therefore their demand for health insurance as a product is lower from the get-go. Now, individual mandate penalties aside, because of course we know this is a product you have to buy or pay a penalty for, young people may be delaying this process because they can procrastinate until the end of the enrollment deadline, or they can put this off. This is not a product that they are desperate to have, as many older, sicker Americans are. And about the president's promise, he'd be in a lot better situation with young people and older people alike if this were not a central selling point of his plan. This was not an off-the-cuff remark. This is not something he said one time, but it's on video on YouTube for everyone to see.
Larry, it was also a central selling point of his re-election, and I think that's incredibly important here.
Right.
There's no evidence this man would have been re-elected without being able to say that if you're satisfied with your own health reform, you can keep it. This health reform is for people who actually need it. And let me tell you something. I don't know a million things about a million things. I know the way voters and consumers think. And focus group after focus group, poll after poll, people would say, I'm fine, I have private insurance, but I agree that others need it. They would have had a decidedly different opinion had they known the truth.
He promised
let's drill down on those polling.
He promised to keep the doctors,
I'm sorry, Larry,
too. But go ahead, Ron. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir, but to your point and to Kelly's point, Kellyanne's point, when you really drill down on the millennials, you see they really demand transparency. These are people who can work the web and know when they're being misled, and they don't trust government. And the president, who really should have these young Americans in the bag, is doing everything, it seems, to drive them away. And you know, I'm saying this as someone who's already benefiting from Obamacare and wants it to work, which is why it's so frustrating to see how ham-handed they've handled the messaging on this and how ham-handed they've handled the implementation of it so far. And they've got to get their act together really soon, or it's going to come apart.
Well, another challenge for...
Hadley, let me just ask you. I want to shift a bit. You know, with this backdrop, okay. The president's shift in his statements and the millennials' unhappiness with this, they're not buying it yet. Do you expect to see any serious legislation coming out of Congress, all right, together? Do you expect to see, for example, a delay in the individual mandate? Do you expect to see, for example, what the other option out there is, that if you liked your insurance plan, you can keep it, which is from Senator Ron Johnson and some others? Do you think seriously that the Senate and the House could put legislation together to change Obamacare right now?
Well, obviously, the ideal situation would be a delay not just in the individual mandate, but in all of the penalties, subsidies, and taxes in the law. So long as the law is not ready for prime time, it shouldn't be out there revealing to the American public what a failure this part or the other part is. It should be a delay overall.
But do you understand? Do you understand? Let me just make this. There's a mathematical point here, not a political point. Right. Delay really damages the financing of Obamacare with respect to the individual mandate. If they put a hold on the whole thing, if they take the website down to clean it up properly, if they do a lot of things, that will wreck the financing. It sabotages it before it starts. However, letting people keep their old insurance doesn't do any such damage, Hadley. That's why I'm thinking, how is this going to play out?
Well, to Ron's point about people who are benefiting or suffering because of Obamacare already, the problem out to young adults when it comes to Obamacare is that many people under 30 are going to be paying the lion's share of the cost when it comes to the premiums, and as taxpayers paying for subsidies for other people in these exchanges. So if you want to look at the cost, it's not just an issue of transparency. Did the president lie? Did he misspeak? Was he being factually inaccurate? It's also an issue related to the policy itself, that young people, because of age band compression and other things, have to pay more.
But that's what I said. The point I'm making is this. A delay absolutely ruins the financing of Obamacare. That's the key point.
Well, a delay of the individual mandate,
right? Yeah, of the individual mandate. Thank you.
Right, but Larry, he's got to keep the Senate Democratic, and a delay may actually help him do that.
Well, okay, I understand. That's a tough call for them. Anyway,
he's too arrogant.
Thank you very much, Ron Fournier. We appreciate it. Kellyanne's going to hang out with us for a while. Coming up, we've got polls.